I'm going to talk about tourism and how tourism can embrace the challenges that come with climate change. A few facts, just for those of you who don't know, it's about 10.4% of the global GDP, and it creates about 9.9% of total global employment. Now that's a big industry, as you might see from those facts. But how much does it contribute to climate change? About 8% of carbon emissions globally come from tourism, and this is not what they previously had calculated. They'd calculated only the emissions from travel and actual hotel accommodation. Now they've taken in all the other factors, such as what you eat, all the supplies that come in, so your entire stay when you go on a holiday. So that actually comes up to 8% of those emissions. And when you look at small countries like the Maldives or Cyprus and Seychelles that live purely off tourism in these days, and then 80% of their annual emissions, that is huge. So something needs to be done about that. And also, tourism is set to grow at 4% annually every year for the next few years. Again, if we don't look at how we deal with climate change in this tourism, then our actual product that we offer, which is pristine environment, great lovely beaches, they will no longer be there. So we need to do something, and we need to do something about it fast, because as you can see, the plastic endemic has already reached the beaches. There is not a beach left in this world where you will not find a piece of plastic on it. And they've actually already closed down 2 beaches this year, one in the Philippines and one in Thailand, because it was so littered with plastic. Therefore, we've got to do something about it. So what did we decide to do? So my business partner and I decided to set up our own company because we came from this industry, from tourism and from the hotel sector. We were 2 women with children. We wanted flexibility. We wanted to do something that we were passionate about. So we decided to create or take over an existing company called Consider Hoteliers, which we did in 2012. We created a limited company out of it. And we then started turning it around. We built up the services that we wanted to provide, the tools that we wanted to give hoteliers to deal with this crisis at hand. Little did we know what was going to hit us. We then decided in 2015 that we were going to go crowdfunding, because the traditional funding opportunities were not open for us. As 2 women in this business, it was just not going to be the traditional route. So thankfully, we went crowdfunding. We were very lucky. We have 10 fabulous investors who gave us £350,000. And with that, we set off and set up our company. So we created a data monitoring platform, which I'll tell you a little bit about later. And we created a set of tools and services. And we now have our little team of 7 delivering the services to hotel companies across the world. So I'm going to tell you a little bit as to how do we engage these hoteliers to do these things, and how do we make sustainability less boring, as we heard this morning, because that's the challenge, isn't it? So the first thing you do is you make it sexy. This is my 50 shades of green. Otherwise, everybody glazes over. And what do hotels sell? What does tourism sell? They sell you sexy holidays. That's what they do. They sell you beautiful pictures and beautiful beaches. So that's what we tell them. This is what you're contributing to. This is how you get to your beautiful beaches. This is your journey to sustainability, so let's make it sexy. This was one of our postings that we did for Earth Hour 2018 this year. So it was candles everywhere. That's already the environment, and that's a beautiful story to tell. Then you create a brand. You create their own brand so the hotels feel they can create their own story. So it doesn't come in as a silo and sustainability is on the side and CSR. That's boring. You want to create something that is theirs, that is part of their own brand and part of their own vision. So we give them spaces for it. We help them create it. And it's a creative process, and it's fun. You then engage the teams, because no great expedition in this world has ever succeeded without a great team. So you engage the teams. It gives them empowerment, and it gives them ownership of the process, because if they don't participate in this process, you're not going to get anywhere. So we do a lot of team training. We create green teams in every hotel. We go in and we teach them, and we help them, or rather they help. Not that we teach them, they know it, but we just help them take these tools and engage. You make it relevant. Okay, so once you have your strategies, you also need to think about what are the things that guests are going to see. Guests see the products that you offer them in a hotel, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but if you go out there and you see the products that you have, I don't think any of them have rung sustainability to you, because that's not a priority at this hotel. They do a lot on energy efficiency in this hotel. I know that as a fact. But do we still need plastic straws that we find anywhere? Do we need to import water from France? Do we need to serve grapes when it's actually not the season for grapes? So it's just rethinking, you know, it's rethinking what we... And everybody in a hotel who works in a hotel goes shopping. So all the staff will understand this too, that your choices can make a huge difference. So the choices as to what the hotel purchases, they make a huge difference. And the one thing that's really impressive about the hotel industry is the amount of influence you have. You have to think of the hotel as one sphere of influence where the guest stays. So this is not a product where somebody comes to your shop, you sell them a handbag, and then they leave again. They stay in your product. The amount of influence you can exert on them when they're staying there is enormous. So you influence the guest goes home, he might be an influencer at home, so he might change things that he's seen at the hotel, in his home, in his company. You influence the staff, because the staff see what you're doing, and they will do it at home. And then you influence your suppliers. So if you have that relationship with the suppliers, they will also change. So the amount of influence that you as a hotelier can have is absolutely huge. So we make them aware of that. And then we use technology. So we created our own data monitoring platform, which allows hotels to monitor their resource consumption. So we look at energy, water, gas, all of those boring and unsexy things behind the scenes, but they need to be done, because that's where the saving comes in, and that's where you reduce your carbon emissions. So we help them with live data, and I'm going to show you boring or exciting charts. So this shows you, for example, 1 month of district heating at a hotel here in Germany. And what we have is we have overlays that allow you to see my occupancy, which was the green line. What was my occupancy line? You see those curves going nicely up and down for weekends and not weekends. And what was my outside temperature? So you see there's actually a delta there between around the 11th of May where they were overheating enormously. They didn't need to have to heat, because the red point shows you that that's not where you needed to, that's where the outside temperatures, and your occupancy was low. They blasted out heating for 4 days. So this is the kind of data we deliver them, and that we deliver it's like an operational tool, so that they can manage that whole resource consumption in a much more efficient way. And last year, we managed to save this hotel group, which has 12 hotels in the UK, £100,000 in just 6 months. Okay, we went in, we showed them the data, we monitored it all, and then we did workshops with the engineers and said, guys, you've got too high consumption at nighttime. Make sure that at nighttime everything is turned off. Your kitchen, the equipment is turned off between the meal times. Turn them off. Be more efficient. Work with housekeeping. They flush the loos too often. So with that data, that gives you knowledge, and that knowledge you can then use to make the behavioral changes. And then you go back to communicating it so people understand. So we use that data and we translate it into infographics that can show people. So what does 5% electricity reduction mean? It means you could power 184 houses for 1 whole year. Or how much we save, 22.2% in water, that could have filled 23 Olympic-sized pools. So we use that data and we deliver it in a format that people who don't read data, which is certainly me, can understand it, and then you can do something with it as well. You create tangible projects. So you look at your resort, in this case it's an island that we work with in the Caribbean, and say, okay, what is one of my key issues? We have issues with the coral reef. The coral reef is dying off, so we got a coral reef restoration project going, which the guests can snorkel out to. They can help clean the corals, because the corals need quite a lot of maintenance. It looks amazing. It's like these modern art constructions or sculptures underneath the water that sort of are just extraordinary. And you see this, and then they grow, and then they take off the corals and they plant them back in the coral reef. So it sort of gets the nature growing again. The guests get engaged, they like this, and they certainly suddenly understand, if I use sun cream that has oxybenzone in it, it goes into these corals and destroys them again. So there's a correlation, and it creates these tangible projects and what we call hope spots as well. Also, another project, we have people that adopt turtles. They put them into the water when they hatch. And if you adopt them, the guest pays for a tiny bit, and then we can track them. That allows us to put trackers on turtles, and that gives us the scientific data, and we can help protect the turtles. So again, you use the guest to engage in this. Again, the FT had a great article in How to Spend It the other day on how guests are paying so much to be part of conservation as a tourist sort of project or holiday. And then you educate them. Again, you educate guests, you put fun facts around, and you don't have to tell them off. You don't have to say, don't use or don't do this, but just give them the facts and say, look how much plastic goes into our ocean, and those straws and the toothbrushes, and here's what you could do if you wanted to. And this is what we do. So join us and make it a fun project. And then ultimately, of course, we do comply, because if you don't comply, your story is greenwashing. So we make sure that we correlate everything that we do to the SDGs, because they're obviously key to all of our efforts. And ultimately, we encourage hotels to report. So you need to choose what report you want to do, but you need to make sure that you report so that we have that transparency and we have the credibility. And the data that we get through the monitoring platform helps us with this reporting. And so that's what we do. And thank you very much for your time.